Marshall North Cup joined our club in March of this year. He's an advanced Toastmasters silver. He's currently working on his advanced leader bronze. Tonight, he's presenting, goal setting, and planning from the Leadership Excellence series. I hope the next person for that would be one or more of you. Marshall?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. One saying that probably most, if not all of you have heard, is that most people don't plan to fail, they what? Fail to plan. What is that again? They don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And last week, I did a very quick 3-minute presentation on the leadership track of Toastmasters. So this you could consider to be a continuation on of that. Most of us join Toastmasters because we're interested in improving our communication skills. And then many of us, myself for example, begin to understand that there's this whole other area of my life, personally and professionally, where I'm able to grow as well, and that happens to be in the area of leadership. And so this evening I'm going to present this module. It's a Toastmaster module, so you know, if you want to ooh and ah, you're basically oohing and ahhing at what Toastmasters put together, and if you don't like it, well, ditto. I did throw in a few slides to add some meat to this, and also hopefully some humor. So, first of all, by definition, a goal is a specific objective you and your team must achieve. One of the things that I had the great pleasure of being involved in years ago when I joined Toastmasters was the previous leadership executive team of the club had put together what's called a club success plan. And so I happened to come along into this club, and they just said, you know, this is what we do, and this is how Toastmasters teaches it to us, and so this will be what we'll be doing during our one-year term in office. And so a part of that was beginning to establish some goals. What would be some things, if we could maybe list 1 or 2 quick things, we could say, how could we get better? How could we improve? If we were looking at ourselves as a group and say, you know, there's a little room for opportunity here, what would be 1 or 2 things that we could possibly do in order to shine even brighter? What would you say?
Practice.
Practice, okay? So if we could set a goal to provide more opportunities for people to practice, what else might be a goal that we could jot down for ourselves? How could we get better? Anne?
To make it important to acquire audio-visual equipment that's more technologically advanced.
Okay, so as a group, we identified that there's a need in today's market, in today's world that we live in. More and more people are using technology to present. So as a Toastmaster club, it would be nice to be able to provide people the proper equipment to do their presentations, so that not only were they learning and developing and growing their speaking and presentation skills, but they had the tools to do it as well. How's that? Anybody else have one? What's one other thing we could look at as a goal? Where else is there room for improvement?
We can volunteer more.
Yeah, okay, sure. So volunteer more. How can we get people to step up and say, you know what, I can't help a lot, but I certainly can help a little. Where can I actually fit in and make things easier and lighten the load for others? All right, so those are some great goals. Then a plan is a blueprint for achieving these goals. There's a saying that goes hand in hand with plans and goals, and the saying is this: plans are in sand and goals are in concrete. So what does that mean? What would your interpretation be of that? Plans are in sand and goals are in concrete.
Plans are shifting, and a goal is being really specific and focused.
Okay, good, I agree. Lori, did you?
I was just going to say, you can change your plans and you can modify them
to fit the goal better as you go along.
That's right. If you think of it this way, if you were going to go on a trip and you were going to get in your car and drive somewhere, the destination may not change, but at some point during your journey, you might decide to stay overnight at a hotel that you hadn't originally planned to stay at. Does that mean that you change where you're heading?
No.
No, it just means that you made a little bit of a shift in the plans in order to get there. Okay? So, this is something that is very frequently used when people speak of goals. And I was taught this years ago, and one of the things that I started to do, because I was delivering training sessions on goal setting for corporate salespeople, is I looked at this and there was some gaps in it, and I actually continued to use a different version of this. So I'm going to speak to this, and I'm also going to throw in a couple of other thoughts. So it's called SMART goals, or SMART goal setting. And the first point is, be specific. So, you write down exactly what you're hoping to accomplish, where you're heading, what you're trying to achieve, and it should be written down in a way that's easily understood. Right? So that you read it, you say, yeah, that's pretty specific, there's no room for error on that, we all understand it, it's pretty much easy enough for a 5-year-old to get. Then it should be measurable, so there has to be some way of quantifying it. You have to be able to attach numbers to it. There's got to be some way of saying, okay, it's like when you go and you decide to lose weight, right? You either decide to lose inches or what? Pounds, right? But there's a measurement that you typically use. You don't say, well, I'm just going to do this until I feel good, right? Usually you say, I'll feel good actually when I get down 17 pounds. Because I'll have hit a goal that I was striving for. It has to be action-oriented. So there has to be something behind it that says, okay, we mean it, we're doing it, we're in this game, we're going to move forward with it. So there has to be some form of action that creates momentum. It has to be realistic. What does that mean? What's realistic?
It's not the fancy thing, just you think about it and it's not practical.
Yeah, so it can't be a fantasy. It's got to be something that's practical that you can say, yeah, we can do that. That's doable.
Attainable.
It's reality.
Sorry?
It's reality.
It's reality, yes. And, it doesn't hurt to stretch yourself somewhat, but at the same time, you should be being realistic, because if you set something that's too far beyond what you can do, then often what people will end up doing is they'll actually end up creating barriers and actually kind of self-destructing when they're saying, well, I'm trying to go here, but quite the matter is that in their head they think, I can't do this anyway, right? So they don't follow through and get it done. And then the last part is it has to have a date attached to it. It has to have some sort of time frame connected to it, so that, it's, when you go on a trip, even if money's no object, and you've got all the time in the world, there's probably still some sort of timeline. I plan to get there in a week, or plan to get there in a month, or plan to get there in a year, but there's some sort of date connected with it, right? Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering. The other beautiful thing with having a date attached to things is it creates a sense of urgency, right? You start looking and you say, okay, well, here's what we want to do within the next 12 months, and then you start breaking it down into reasonable stepping stones along the way, and you don't feel that pressure. But that urgency is also created because if you do fall behind, you know that, hey, that date's coming and we have to get it done. So there's nothing like a date to create a sense of urgency. What happened was a good friend of mine by the name of Rory Sheehan wrote a book called Beyond Conscious Awareness. Rory's a very well-schooled individual, and he also does some things that are sort of not mainstream. And one of the things that he did was, in his book, he wrote what he called Be Smart goals. And he added a couple of components. He put some extra twists on these, and I won't get into them, but he added the B and the E at the front of SMART. What do you suppose the B stands for?
Bold.
No. You gotta
Believe.
You gotta believe, right? If you set a goal for yourself and you don't believe in it, then once again, you won't go for it because you actually think, I can't do that. I mean, I know I said I'm going to do it, I know I wrote it down, but quite the reality is, I don't think that I can do it. So you've got to believe, and then the E is there has to be some energy and some enthusiasm and some excitement behind it, right? Because you need that as a catalyst, especially when you hit tough spots and you want to quit, right? And you just think, wait a second, no, we're doing this. I'm excited. I'm making this happen. I said I was going to do it, and I know it was 6-8 months ago, but we're committed. We're going to do this and see it through. So, real quick, run through these real quick. These are some slides of my own that I added. What happens is goal setting creates mental momentum and challenges us to accomplish more of what we're capable of doing. You ever had a time in your life when you said, I didn't realize I could do it until I did it? Right? And goals actually help us do that. They help us stretch and get further. They increase personal satisfaction and happiness. I heard somebody say a phrase one time. They said, without goals, you're a wandering generality. Okay? Sometimes people have goals like this, right? Okay? They give us a reason or a purpose for what we're doing every day. Sometimes you just don't feel like it. But when you have a goal, you will drive towards it. Reduce stress. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Keep us moving forward, focused, and they make it easier for us to prioritize. They give us a method to gauge by, and then when they're written down, they give us a visual roadmap so we can see it. It becomes more tangible and real to us. True? True?
At least you can say
They make decision-making less complicated, and they help us stay focused on the bigger picture. When we look at a group, like an executive team creating goals, it's important that everyone become involved and everybody be willing to participate. Things have to be written down. That's our commitment. By taking what's in your head and putting it on paper, it becomes real, it's crisp, it's clear, it's sharp, and you're going to be more likely to make it happen. Continue what you must do to achieve it. You got to regularly review progress. When you go on a diet, what do you often do as you're dieting? You weigh yourself, right? That's your check-in. How am I doing? And sometimes it's not so nice, but that's okay because you need a reality check when things are not progressing forward. And then planning reinforces the goals. It makes us more future-oriented. We look towards where we're headed when we do the planning. Because a lot of people will write goals down, but they don't necessarily create a plan. And the plan is the roadmap to actually making the goals become a reality. It enables us to coordinate decisions, and it ensures efficient use of resources. There's amazing things that happen. Your neurons in your brain begin to pop when you start actually writing down a plan. And you start saying, oh, we're going to need this, we're going to need Gala to volunteer to do that, and right, you start to actually see what's going to be required. If you need finances, all those sorts of things. I'm not going to read through all these because time's not going to permit me to, but there's all kinds of benefits towards planning. Right? What's one that you can think of that's important? What's a benefit to planning?
Reach your goal.
Sorry?
Reach your goal.
Reach your goal today. And what happens is that over the course of time, they've created a success system for each of us as individuals and for the club as a whole. And that program that they've created is called the Distinguished Club Program. And by the way, I haven't heard anyone say it yet. Our club last year, the year ended June 30th, was a Distinguished President's Club, which is the highest rated club that you can be in Toastmasters. So how as a group do we create a succession plan so that the same success continues on through the next year? Goal setting plus planning equals a successful leader, and it also equals a successful leadership team. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. Mr. Toastmaster.